Welcome to another episode of Ask Firebase. My name is Sumit Chandel.
And I'm David East.
And today we're going to, hey David, you realize it's not Christmas anymore, right?
It's laundry day. Today we're going to answer your questions from YouTube, Stack Overflow, Twitter, and basically wherever we hear from you. So if you want your question answered, make sure to hit us up with the Ask Firebase.
And today we're answering questions on 3 topics. First, multi-factor authentication. Second, importing Firestore data into Google Sheets. And third, cloud messaging and Safari compatibility.
Let's get started. Ken asks, is there any chance that multi-factor authentication might be in the works?
For those of you who don't know, multi-factor authentication, or MFA, is an easy way to provide a layer of security when logging users in. At last I/O, we announced that we're working on MFA for Firebase authentication. It's not ready for public release quite yet, but we do have a private alpha. So if you're interested, sign up. The link is in the description.
Tip of the week, import Firestore data into Google Sheets. So the other week we did a Firebase productivity tips and tricks video, and we covered how to export Google Sheet data to Firestore with AppScript. And we've had a bunch of follow-up questions about how to do the inverse. So let's take a look on how you import Firestore data into Google Sheets. So here we are in this spreadsheet, and simply what we want to do is we want to create columns of data from each field of a Firestore document and then append rows. So each row would be a specific document's data. And to start out, you will click on Tools and then go to Script Editor. Inside of here in the App Script Editor, there's one thing we need to do before we get started, and that is to go to the Resources and then click Libraries. Now, I've already set this up, and so we have this Firestore app library linked, and that is over here in GitHub. You can see that there's this library, open source, called Firestore for Google Apps Scripts, and this is written by Graham Early, and it's a fantastic library, and to add it, all you have to do is copy this code right here, go back into here, and paste it. Make sure that you select the latest version, and then save. So to use this library, I like to use a helper function that creates an instance of Firestore. And inside of this function, we're going to call Firestore app. And this is provided by the library. So it automatically knows that this method, getFirestore, exists. And so this takes in 3 things: the email, the key, and the project ID. And if you're wondering what these 3 things are, they are all properties from a service account. A service account is like a special user that has complete permissions to your Firestore database. And to create that, you go into the Firebase console and you can download a service account where you will find these keys. This is usually used with the Firebase admin SDK. But as long as you are not sharing this information with anybody else and it's just living back here secret away from everything else, you should be fine. But make sure to take extra care that this information does not leak out somewhere, because that would give someone complete access to your database, and as you probably are feeling, that would be a bad thing. So make sure that you keep this data secret in here. So for now, I'm just going to turn these into strings, and I will add this information behind the scenes before I run my script. So now that we are able to get a Firestore instance, I am going to create a function to kick everything off called import from Firestore. And inside of here, I'm going to break it down into 4 steps. The first step is just to grab a Firestore instance, which is just simply calling the method above. The second thing I'm going to do is retrieve a collection from the database. And then the third thing I'm going to do is grab the first document from the collection. And I'll use this document to print the columns in the first row. So this can be tricky because not every document in Firestore is guaranteed to have the same fields. In this case, I know they all do, so I'm going to rely on that. But if you did not have all the same fields, you could store all known fields in a document somewhere and then retrieve that information first and then match the keys as you iterated. And then lastly, I am going to iterate through all of the collections and turn them into an array of data so they can be appended to the active spreadsheet. So getting a collection is very easy. We could just create an all documents array and call firestore.getDocuments. And this takes in a collection name. So in this case, my collection is called cities. And this returns not only the data, but a lot of other metadata around it. So to strip the metadata, I'm going to map over this array. And then within this math function, I'm just going to return document.fields because that's what this library does to indicate that this is the field data. So now that I have all the fields, I just need to grab the first document by using the 0th index of the array. And now from here, I can call good old object.keys to get all of these keys back for the columns. And then from here, I can append this to the active spreadsheet, which we can get from the spreadsheet app. So just to recap, we have grabbed the first document and grabbed its fields, not its data, and to use those as the columns. From this point forward, we need to get the rows, which is all of the data within the documents. But the trick is, we want to make sure that we're only grabbing the fields or the columns that we know about. So to do that, we will write 2 loops. The first loop will loop over all of the documents and grab each individual document. And then the second loop will create an array to append to the spreadsheet from the known fields from the first document. So the last thing we need to do now is provide a little bit of UI so we can have a menu to click from in the spreadsheet. And we can do that with the magical onOpen function. Within onOpen, we can get the active UI from the spreadsheet app. And then from here, we can create a menu. We'll give this menu a caption of Firestore. And then we are going to add an item. We'll just call the item import. And then we will call a function name as a string, and that's the same as this function name down here. So import from Firestore. And the last thing we need to do is make sure we add it to the UI, or you won't see it, and that's really frustrating. So now once we refresh the spreadsheet, we can click Firestore and then click Import. And just like that, all of our data is imported from Firestore into our spreadsheet. So that's the fastest way code-wise to get that done. But if we want to get the rows updating more performantly, we can use another technique. So let us know if you're interested in that video. And say next question.
Next question.
This next question comes from a David Eos, and he wants to know, hey, is there a Firebase podcast? Because there should totally be a Firebase podcast, and David East should be the host of it. And you know what, actually, I'll take this. Yes, there is a Firebase podcast, and yeah, I'm the host of it. So if you want to learn all about how Firebase products work behind the scenes from engineers, PMs, designers, and all the people who make those products tick, then definitely subscribe to the podcast. Link in the description. Great question.
And that is all we have time for today. If you want us to answer a question, make sure to post a question on YouTube, Twitter, Stack Overflow with the hashtag AskFirebase. And we will see you on the next episode.